Youngest, a political podcast where we talk about issues and highlight the voices of young people. I'm here today at the University of North Carolina at Greensboro, talking to some esteemed young guests, and I'm gonna let them introduce themselves.
I'm Blake. So
My name's Shaq, Shakur, like Tupac Shakur.
My name is Joy.
So, in honor of Black History Month and what is happening with HB40, we'll be talking about reparations today. So, I wanted to open the floor and ask: do Black people deserve reparations, and why do you think? So or not?
I'll go first. Listen, I don't know if it's gonna sound bad, but as of right now, in my personal opinion, I don't think so anymore. If they were gonna do something like this, I feel like it should have already been done. You know what I mean? Just because of how our economic standing is right now, it just wouldn't make any sense. Because first of all, you got to think about how much money are you giving out. One, number two, look how many people, Black people there are in the United States now. It's like millions of people. So it's just like, it wouldn't make any sense for us, because we don't even have the budget to be giving out that much money. Like, look what we're doing now when it comes to the pandemic, when it comes to the stimulus check. We can really barely kind of do that now when we're trying to do that. So it just wouldn't make any sense in my opinion. I feel like now it's just like we need to start to move past that and kind of just think about what are we gonna do future wise. Like, if you need to, when it comes to money, us teaching us about, how to manage money, teaching us about money, then that's a little bit different. So then now going forward, we can make our own money as a, whole, as a community. So that's what, I think about it.
Okay.
I feel like I'm a little bit with him. I feel like if they should have done it, then it should have been done a long time ago. But right now, I feel like it's not the best place with this COVID, and the way they can't even get out of stimulus check without everybody trying to agree on how much it should be. I think that if we can't even settle on that, then how are we supposed to pay reparations for slavery and stuff?
I disagree. I think we should be giving reparations because if they can pay all this money to hold a trial against the president, y'all could use that money to go towards something better. Like, okay, we can't get like the 40 acres and a mule. Well, how about sending Black kids to college for free? How about implementing ways that can benefit the society of Black people? Update the way of how you can pay the reparations. So I think we should still get it. May not be the exact way how they promised it, but like make it as a way to where it can benefit us now. Because at the end of the day, it's never gonna be a right time. Just gotta start somewhere. Stop making excuses.
And I will say there have been reparations given before, though I believe the last time that happened was like the 1960s and 1930s. I think the reparations were given to Native Americans. Is it just people who are descendants of slaves? Or is it all Black people, right? Because with the with HB40, they're putting a special commission together to look into the case for reparations, and part of what they're looking at is the people that are descendants of slaves. So, what do y'all think about does the classifying of who classifies that would get reparations, does that change how y'all feel?
I feel like it's gonna play a factor into it because when you think about reparations, you gotta think about, okay, so who are we gonna give it to first? You gotta think about race and then class. It's like it's so many factors into trying to decide like who gets what. So trying to figure out like who gets it first or who gets it last, like that's gonna be our biggest issue. I gotta figure out which population to start out with.
I definitely agree with that. It's just like, and also too, how much time is that really? Like, when you just said that, like, that seems to me that's gonna take so much time, and by the time you figure it out, look how many years. Like, it's gonna take, I believe, years for that to really happen. It's gonna take a long time. So it's like, is it really worth it in the end to really do it? Now, I do, one thing you said like earlier, the last question, I feel like they could change, like how you said, change how you give the reparations. I feel like, okay, maybe not college for free, but you know what I mean? Like HBCUs making them like really good, like, because I know they're kind of dying down a little bit now. So it's like doing certain things like that, maybe changing that'll be a little bit better. Like doing certain things that, you know, could give us I don't want to say edge, because you don't want to be like, okay, we all black people should just get the advantage over everybody. You know what I mean? Like, you don't want to do that, because that's like, you know.
They're not making sense. Then it sounds like black people are just like born.
Yeah.
They can't like help themselves.
Yeah, exactly. So you gotta have to figure out that balance. But going back to that question, it's just like timing. It would just take too long, like, for us to really figure that out, in my opinion. You know.
Yeah, I kind of agree. I agree with both of y'all. I think it's gonna take some time, because then you have to actually look at the history of every Black American or descendant that was a descendant of a slave, and that's gonna take a while.
Yeah.
And it also depends on, like, I don't know if they would do this, but like how old you are. Like, it depends how old you are, like what financial situation you're in.
Well, we in a pandemic. I think they got time to do it. So honestly, like, everybody got more free time now. Like, they got time.
So to your point about how hard it's gonna be, what if they basically did like Ancestry.com, but for like no, seriously, what if they track people's lineage? Would that make it easier? But I also have a question, though, that because I feel like when they track people's lineage, people will find out they had some ancestry that they didn't know they had. So even if that were the case, should reparations go to people who didn't identify as Black but found out they had Black ancestry that was enslaved?
See, that would go back to the 1% rule of, like, if you got any type of Blackness in you, you're Black. Like, you could be 99% European, but you got that 1% Black, oh, you're considered Black. Then you get reparations. So looking at that, you have to look at that as well.
So we're taking one drop rule back into effect. But question, because some of these people might not have ever identified as Black and have been able to pass. Because you know there are a lot of passing people. Like, I met a lot of passing people lately that I was like, I thought about old boy that was on Jesse. He was mixed. I did not know he was mixed until he died.
Cameron.
Yeah, his dad was Black.
Yeah,
his dad was Black.
That's crazy.
And if you see his sister, you could be like, okay, she's mixed.
Now you bringing in the question of mixed people. Now that's like a separate category. Because at first we talking about just going back to people whose ancestry is like directly goes back to slavery, but now you're talking about bringing in mixed people. But it's like they also have like a direct lineage to slavery too, because you know you had the slave masters raping, you know, Black women, and so it's like you have to consider. It's just a lot of things you have to consider thinking about this. You gotta go back a lot. It's a lot of damage.
Yeah, I definitely agree on that. It's just like mix. That just brings a whole different thing in there. And then, like I said, if you didn't even know, like, really, and you know you're just passing, then it's just like you don't want to be like, oh, you didn't know, so you don't get anything. You know what I mean? Like, people can look, if you can view it from that point of view as well as like, okay, because I didn't know anything, I don't get anything either, but you get something, then it's like, okay. So I feel like, honestly, at the end of the day, it's just gonna cause more chaos. You know what I mean? Like, it would just cause way more chaos than good.
Also, who's deciding, like, who get it? Like, is it the white man? Like, is it gonna be Black people to do it? Like, this goes back to, like, the government still deciding for Black people when, you know, the government was never made for Black people. So I feel like even with these reparations, they're still gonna find some type of way to not let that benefit and not let it, like, progress the Black community. It's still gonna be some type of factor that's gonna stop us from, like, progressing.
And the thing is, because you got to bring up too, it's like, how much are you really getting? Because I'm gonna be honest with you. Let's say you're talking about a stimulus check amount of money. Is that really gonna help you? Like, is that really a reparation? Like, that's paying you back for slavery? Not. Like, to me, I'm thinking like over 100K. But is that realistic that everybody's gonna get something like that? We don't even have the money to do that. Because if you're talking about reparations, okay, $5,000, $2,000, that's not reparations to me, in my opinion. That's a stimulus check.
So I think that brings an interesting question of what would you like, what would be the ideal package for reparations? Would it include like land? Would it include money? Would it include, I know you mentioned something about education and funding more money into HBCUs, right? How would you all, if you all were to create them yourselves, how would you categorize that? How would you give that to people? What benefits would people get?
I think the biggest thing that you can take away is just money. We're always gonna be money hungry, and I feel like in the current situation, I feel like more people need money more than anything else, because if you don't have money, you need money to survive in this world. Let's be honest. You need money, and if you don't have that money, then you're going to, I'm not gonna say like you won't prosper in this society. So I think we need more money, or if we do get a check or whatever, I feel like people need money more than anything.
I would say for me, I don't know if there's a really perfect answer to that, just because at the end of the day, we're all like individuals. So an individual has different needs, you know what I mean? So my need, like what I say might not be for somebody else, you know what I mean? Because it's like, somebody, again, like you said, some people might need money, but this person might, like, you're rich, like you're super rich, you don't need money, so why even, get that? So it's like, I don't know like the exact answer. I don't know money, because again, everybody, loves money and stuff like that, but everybody doesn't need it, because you got really rich people and stuff like that. They don't need money. They know how money works. But again, I would say maybe education on how money works. I feel like that would be good, because I feel like not enough people that look at like the projects or something like that, they do not know how money works. Because it's like, think about it, they get the stimulus check or something, just going back to that, it's either they're gonna spend it all on whatever, or it's like, let's say they're in debt for something, they're just gonna spend it on that, they're still in debt. So it's like they don't really know what to do with that. But I feel like if you know how, if you're teaching the instead of Christopher Columbus in school or something like that for us, or something like that, you're teaching more about money, like pushing that more, then that would be better, because that's long term for us. That's not money, getting a little bit of money, that's short term. You're gonna spend it. Get long term educational money, then it's down generations. So I feel like if we're gonna do like a package, education only. That's what I would say.
Yeah, so basically, some of what he's saying, he's talking about generational wealth, teaching Black people how to like make your money long term. Like, example, in that Jay-Z song, how he talked about buying paintings for his future kid, or for his kids.
Mm-hmm.
So when they get older, the money grows,
Yeah.
and they can sell it. Like teaching Black people how to do stuff like that. So mine would be education and healthcare. Those are the top two things that Black people struggle with. Like it's always gonna be issues with money. Like you always gonna need money. You get more money, you want something more expensive. So then you're gonna need more money to build on top of that. So money is really not the answer. I just feel like education and healthcare is like the top two things. It's the main priority.
All right, so with this conversation about who gets reparations, I think it's critical that we bring up and talk about indigenous people, because there are a lot of indigenous people that have Black ancestry. There were Native Americans that had slaves, as well as there were natives that had relationships with Black people that later had children. So how does this figure in? Like, do indigenous people get reparations?
Like I said, it falls into the mixed people category, in my opinion. Now it's like, I don't know. It just falls into something totally different, because now you gotta think about, okay, so with the indigenous people, you gotta think about the reparations they already was getting, on top of being Black, on top of that. It's like I said, America got so much damage, it's just ridiculous. It don't make no sense.
Too deep in, I guess.
Yeah.
Honestly, I mean, you kind of hit it. I'm gonna be honest with you. It's like you already got this, and now you're getting something else, and it's like, okay, bro, So
I just say a start for America to do right by their people is to tell the history like it is. Don't sugarcoat it. Like this example, on my freshman year here, I was in a class and this this lady told a story about how, I believe it was a first grade or second grade class, and she talked about how they played a game called Runaway Slaves, and the goal was to catch the slave. You catch the slave, you win. Like what good does that do? Like what good does that do? So are you trying to say it was fun to try to run away from the slave master? Like why couldn't you just tell the kids this is what happened? Like people got killed, people got beaten. Like just tell it like it is. Don't sugarcoat it. Because black people didn't get that chance to have their lives sugarcoated. So why sugarcoat it for somebody else? Just tell it like it is.
You brought up a good point. When you talking about that first grade teacher, because I remember when I was in 8th grade, you remember Mr. Buck?
Yeah.
And he talked about how for he's a social studies teacher, how he did like I think it was like a program of like he did like the teachers were like slaves and they actually had like actors that were like the masters or whatever, people trying to catch them, and they had to go through all this stuff to try and go north. And I was thinking in my head, I was like, yeah, I'd be scared out of my mind if I was doing that.
Wait, so the teachers acted as like slaves?
Yeah, like runaway slaves, and they had to like run away from like they had like dogs, but they weren't like attacking them. That's crazy.
You said it wasn't attacking?
They weren't like attacking, but like they were like chasing after them, I guess.
Well, if they want a realistic example, the dog should start attacking.
Yeah.
Bro, that just remind me of that y'all watch Atlanta? That Atlanta episode? Y'all watch Atlanta?
I seen a couple episodes.
Bro, it was one episode where he had a commercial, and it was like a spinoff of Cocoa Puffs, and it was like this wolf, and then he was trying to steal the stuff from the kids, like the cereal, and like a policeman came up and was like, he just kind of like beat him. Like beat the wolf, and like it was like it went from like a childlike commercial to like very real.
Mm.
But I was like, even then I was like, I appreciate it because it was very real.
Mm-hmm.
And the kids were like, hey, you don't have to attack him like that. It's like, but he's resisting, and that's what and I think a realistic portrayal of what is actually happening, we need that.
Yeah.
To some extent, right? And I don't want to glorify black pain, but I do think we need to talk about these things realistically.
And yeah, I just found it extremely funny, like when all these protests happened last year, like all these companies, oh, we support Black Lives Matter now, and then on top of that, Netflix way of helping was just to drop all these black films that should have already been up there.
Yeah. But
this was their way of saying, oh, we support y'all. Here's some movies about slavery.
Do you think a lot of things have been co-opted? Because even if it's the discussion of reparations, right? I think, it was introduced during Black History Month. I thought that was ceremonial, but also interesting, right? Do you think people are kind of just doing this just because, and not because there is an actual wanting to change?
Yeah, they're doing it just because.
Yeah, I mean,
it's a trend.
Yeah, trend. Yeah,
yeah.
Black people
that's
trend in America.
That is true. Yeah.
But if we're gonna trend, might as well get our dividends.
Tell them to bring me my money.
Yeah. So for the final question I have for you all, I've touched on this a little bit, but I want to get to the crux of it. What do you all think should be the outcome of reparations? Like if we're choosing what happens, what is better, what do we want to achieve from it? What do y'all think that should be?
I would say to have the end goal would be to see Black Americans succeed in this day and age more frequently than they should, and have them, like Shakur said, and learn about more how to make more money, and try and add on that and trying to do generational wealth for everybody and keep that going.
I would say the outcome should be, good thing we talked about it, is closing the gap, like Black America closing the gap between, you know, the knowledge that, because there's a gap in knowledge. So it's like, I feel like that should be closed, so then we don't feel like we're behind, because, you know what I mean, I feel like a lot of the times we're behind, we're missing a lot of information sometimes, but if we get that information, what, like the possibilities are endless after that. Like if we get that information, because now granted though, there is you have to play a factor of, like, you know, the individual itself, because there's certain people that are just straight lazy. There's certain people that, hey, look, okay, as soon as they get the information, they run with it, because that's how it is. Like there's certain people, once they finally get that information, then they go crazy. But then there's certain people, they just waste it. You know what I mean? So, but again, close the gap, possibilities become a lot more endless for us, and we can do a lot more stuff. And a lot of people that say, like, you know, Black people can be lazy, they do this, they're just doing this. It's like, now we can become, what's the word? Self-sufficient ourselves without relying on it. Like we can do our own thing. Like for example, Chinese Americans, right? Like they do their own thing. Yes. Indian Americans, they do their own, like they own gas stations and stuff like that. They're doing their thing, and they're not in anybody's way. They're doing stuff. So it's like, if we can, whatever we get from it, we can do that ourselves. We can like actually be a big contribution, because we kind of already do now in certain ways. So that's all I'll say.
I think the last thing you just said, yeah, I think Black Americans should start building their own stuff. Like, you know, with the NFL, for example, like that's predominantly Black. A Black person needs to own that, not a white man. And then you also mentioned how people say like Black people are lazy and stuff. Okay, so, you know, white people, the system was set up to benefit them. So it's still some lazy white people, yet they still benefit from the system. So regardless of that, it's always going to be from any culture. Somebody going to be lazy. But, you know, you can't let that one bad apple affect, you know, everything else. So I think the end goal is just like he said, uplift the Black community, to get us up out the ghetto, because the ghetto was built for us. And just to move forward, because, you know, we once was queens and kings, so let's get back to that.
So that's it for this episode of the My Vote Matters podcast. Be sure to follow us on Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok, and follow our guests too. We out.